excited to have you on. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, this is my first Twitter space, so I'm also very excited of how it goes.
Oh yeah, man. This is a pretty casual space, so I'm sure you'll do great. Really, we have a really friendly community here. Oh, I see Super's joining us as well. Let's go. Everyone's here. So man, I always like to start off and ask, like, how'd you get into crypto, man? How'd you get into the crypto space?
So uh, let's go back in time. So it was like 2010, and Bitcoin was a year old. I was studying my engineering back in India at the time, and I was just sitting in canteen, and some of my nerdy friends talked about this universal digital currency, and they wouldn't stop. And I was like, cool, tell me about it. What's it? And as a prank, what we did was we started this fun project of mining Bitcoin using and rigging the university network. You know, uh, of course, unfortunately, we did not know that it's gonna get this big. So we don't have the ones that we mined or that we could mine. Uh, but yeah, this is where I started, at least like my first introduction to crypto in 2010. I was a bit naive and yeah, didn't know better. So it just went away. But late 2016, when I got very professional, got very serious about things, the world, I kind of started understanding the use cases around crypto. And, I thought, the best way for me to learn is to put money where my mouth is. So I started investing and reading white papers, Bitcoin, Ethereum. At that time, there was also a lot of colored coins as well. Yeah. Uh, and this is how I got into crypto. And then I think uh, I continued networking around the people who are working on crypto. And then in 2008, I thought, okay, now probably it's a good time for me to work on a crypto project. Either start a new or join a project. And that's where I met, Khalid, uh, who was working with Ocean, and that's how I understood the use case, and uh, I actually recognized, and I actually aligned myself to the values of what Ocean provided, because I also had worked with the data related corporations, and I knew there was a lot of issues with the current system of data that's going on. And yeah, that's when I decided, okay, cool, this is something that I want to do.
No, that's awesome, man. Do you ever think about the Bitcoin that you mined that never got to capitalize on?
Yeah, that hurts a bit. but but believe me, I mean, I think I might have not that much regret as the Bitcoin pizza guy, right? So I still am in a better shape, I guess. I don't feel that bad, but I think it's good. I mean, all turned out well. I am actually at the epicenter of cryptocurrency and crypto ecosystem, surrounded by amazing people, amazing projects, and doing something really good, providing value. So yeah, no regrets.
Hey, hey, man, and what year did you make that shift over? Because I feel like even till this day, a lot of people when they think of crypto, they only see that currency aspect. But it sounds like you, from kind of a very early point on, you saw the value prop of cryptocurrencies as a more holistic approach to problem solving.
Mm. This was around 2016, right? When Ethereum basically launched a white paper, I think in like 2015, and then a lot of people started picking up Ethereum, and they started launching their ICOs. So yeah, at the beginning of the ICO boom, I would say. Yeah. And of course, I invested in 2016, and of course, I was for long term, so I did not sell. And 2017, the winter started. So yeah, I survived the winter.
He's a survivor. I mean, those
I'm a
winners are really
survivor.
great. They're really great for clearing house. They're great for removing people that don't actually believe in crypto or don't understand crypto. I think a lot of people join. They're just looking to gamble. Essentially, they don't even know what they're buying. It's awesome, man. So I think a really good place to start off would be like, what is Ocean, and kind of what is the purpose of the Ocean token for those that are new to crypto and don't even know, what Ocean is about.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a step back and try to understand the data world and what's happening there. So every totally right now, if you see, there are like 5 zettabytes of data. That's like around like 5 trillion gigabytes of data lying around. Yeah, and only 0.0000001% of the data set is being used efficiently or being traded in exchanging the hands, right? We have been all talking about AI and how artificial intelligence could help the world, change the world, but AI needs a lot of data, a gazillion tons of data to actually be really effective, right? Not I'm not talking about just like an AI or ML algorithm that can just do some Photoshop, or let's say some uh, correct some auto correction of the text, but something really where it can help with medical applications, cure cancer, for example. uh, it needs a lot of data. But the problem is there is data and there are people smart enough to implement the AI algorithms. Then what's the problem? The problem is there are lots and lots of laws surrounding the data. Yeah, uh, GDPR, CCPA. Also, the data that is valuable is private data. I mean, public data is open in the world, and you can download it from Google or anywhere else. And because it's used already to train the algorithms, you can't use it infinitely. It's just doesn't give you that much value. So the private data is where the value is. And when I talk about private data, it's my credit card reports, my credit history, your bank account details, for example, your health, your health status, your health reports, and of course, myself and you will not be able to. You will not be comfortable selling this to someone because you don't know how it is going to be used, right? It can be harmful to you and your family as well, right? People can take advantage of it. So keeping all this in mind, we Ocean Protocol team initiated this protocol to allow people to exchange and sell or monetize their private data without worrying about their privacy being compromised. Yeah, and blockchain actually allows you to do that, to permissionlessly exchange this, the data sets, and combine that with the technology developed by Ocean Protocol, we can ensure that the data and the privacy of the data being exchanged is safe and secure. Yeah. So what happens is you as a data provider or as a data user can get the benefit of the data, can make money on your data, right? Can train your algorithms without the data being compromised. So what we are hoping is this technology will change the data game forever, and it will help this AI. It will help this institution to exchange this data or to swap the data in an efficient manner without compromising each other's privacy.
Yeah, this is huge, man. I mean, this is definitely where the industry is going. We're already starting to see browsers, for example, remove cookies and give back ownership, right, of data to the user. And I think that this protocol is essential to where digital media, for example, is moving as an entire industry. So this is super 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 exciting.
Yeah. On the commercial front, if you see, there has been a lot of issues with Facebook, right? With the user data being compromised, and this also like affecting this global scale. If you consider the presidential election in 2016, yeah. So it's not only you that is affected directly or indirectly with someone's data, but it's also at a macro level, right? So the data privacy and data, uh, you know, uh, the data provenance is very, very important.
Man, you touch on an interesting point. This is just kind of like a very hypothetical question. You kind of touch on the promise of AI and the need for massive consumption of data. in your eyes in the future, do you kind of look at AI being a publicly owned good to where whatever service or value that an AI is creating, it'll be kind of like set on a protocol and will be owned by the shareholder, like collectively of people around the world?
Ideally, it should have happened by now, but earlier there was no technology like blockchain, which allowed to do that permissionlessly and also to allow the community governance on what goes and what not, right? If you look at the last decade, all the power all the power of decision making and all this smartest talent was being hired by these big corporations like Google and Facebook. But now that shift is changing, right? People are leaving these big corporations and starting crypto startups to actually do public good, right? And yeah, I see in very near future that someone will build, and hopefully using Ocean, a massive AI library where each user can basically put your data to be trained, and in return you get rewards, right? Something like AI farming, for example. Yeah, in return, the team or whoever is building that algorithm library gets to train their algorithm with the user data. So it's kind of a win-win, and it's in public domain.
Did that answer your question, Chase?
Yeah.
Patel, I'm just curious, what are data tokens?
Oh, cool. Simply speaking, data tokens are smart ERC20 tokens. Yeah. With data token, what Ocean Protocol is trying to do is to become an on-ramp and off-ramp of data sets. Now, if you see Ethereum ecosystem, like everything, or let's say ARC20 token is a fundamental unit of exchange, right? I mean, you take example of Aave, Compound, lending protocols, exchanges, DAXes, everything kind of works on ERC20. And of course, now ERC721, which is NFTs, are picking up. But until now, ERC20 was the game. So how can you easily onboard data sets and put it into DeFi? It's simple. Take the dataset, tokenize the access into an ERC20 token, and then just introduce that onto DeFi system, right? So what data token does is it gives an exclusive access to the underlying data sets which the data token represents. And each data set has a unique data token. Yeah. And I said the smart ERC20 because each data token knows where it can be redeemed. So usually ERC20 tokens are just a predefined template, but data tokens also has certain informations about where they can be redeemed, what is the server or what is the provider address that they should go to.
Okay. So does that data need to be on-chain, or can it just rely on being off-chain?
Okay, so the actual data that we're talking about is a huge amount of data, right? And of course, it's not economically feasible to put that data into on-chain. And also, blockchains like Ethereum are like transparent. So of course, you are compromising the integrity of the data and the privacy, of course. So what data can you put on-chain? So let's take example of Amazon.com. Yeah, you see a mobile phone being sold there, like a Samsung phone. How do you know that what that phone contains? Like what is the specification? So the seller provides many details like the color of the phone, the RAM it has, the price they want to sell, right? Some features of the phone, the camera intensity, for example. So all this data, we call it a metadata, right? They are not they doesn't contain the privacy information. So they give the information what the actual data is about. And this is important because if someone wants to purchase a data, they should know what they are actually purchasing, right? Of course, not the content itself, but a context on the data that they are purchasing. So this metadata, it goes into on-chain, right? Because they are not sensitive. And by putting them on-chain, we also maintain the integrity of the data.
Okay, that makes sense. What are the advantages of owning a data token, like the bundle of rights?
So as I mentioned, data token gives the holder an exclusive right of access to the data set, right? Now, this is something that you will do when you actually want to purchase the data set. But data tokens has other advantages as well. For example, you could just be an investor in a data token, right? So you could use data token as a speculative asset. Uh, how does it work is basically if someone wants to publish data set on Ocean and they don't know what the price they want to set, right? Because it's very difficult and it's very difficult to price the data set. You don't know what the actual price is because you most likely you are not into the data business. You are a fintech company or you are a mutual fund or let's say a hedge fund, and data is the byproduct of what you do. So it's not your main business, but you want to monetize that. So you come to Ocean, you say, okay, I don't know the price. I'll let the market decide the price. I'll just put, initial starting price. And then the community, Ocean community, or the Ocean stakers, basically they stake on the data set and acquire the data tokens. So if you would be a data investor, what you would do, you will look at the fundamentals of the data set, look at the data publishers, like is it a big fund house? Is the data going to be valuable, right? Is the industry a valuable industry? For example, health data are very less available, right? So the demand is more and the supply is less. So of course they have more value. So all these fundamental features, you do the analysis, and then you come across your intrinsic value that you think the data should be, right? And if that price is below the price of the data token, the currently the market is putting there, you would invest in that, and you would speculate. And when the price increases because the demand of the data suite increases, either for consumption or either for speculation, you would sell it, and basically you make a profit out of it.
Ah, okay. I see. Chase or Muted, did you have a question before I go to the next one?
Yeah, just more. I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around this. I feel like the market just got a whole layer deeper. So essentially, like if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, in the future there will just be these massive amounts of data sets, and there will be people who maybe have like a certain eye for data or like a knack for evaluating data value in of itself of data sets, and you'll be able to buy like a piece of owning share of that just as you would, these other protocols. And as the value of that data itself grows, you would benefit.
Yes, I mean it's not unheard of, right? It's really happening right now in real estate, right? If you find a piece of property which you feel is underpriced, you would go and buy it. And right now it's also happening in the NFTs, right? You see lots of NFTs are being traded every day on OpenSea. So if you take the same semantics, Ocean Market is basically OpenSea of data.
And just real quick before we move on, Rank Stank, he's one of our regular listeners. He had a question for you.
Mhm.
He said, who determines the governance of the metadata and of the data set to determine that is CCPA or GDPR compliant?
Yeah, so these are two different questions. So I'll go with the first one. So the data provider has an exclusive right on the data set, right? Because they are the owner of the data set. You are an investor or a speculator in that data set, right? Uh, of course, we are going towards more on the governance side, and our next versions like V4 and V5 will try to, make the data staker also like kind of have a say in what goes and what goes not on the data side. But right now, as it current setup, the data provider has the right on the governance, so they can actually put more data sets on the same data set, or they can like split the data set into two data sets as well. But as a staker, as a community, it is you who decide that, okay, this, is this the data set I want to continue staking on, or if the fundamentals have changed. Let's say if the data provider is behaving in a non investor friendly way or non community friendly way, then of course they will actually lose the stakes on the data set, and that will be reflected in the overall credit score or a reputation that their data set suggests. Yeah, the second one was about the CCPA and GDPR. So there are two types of data sets, right? The public and the private one. The private one containing the PIIs, and the public one is available on the open internet. It doesn't contain any PII. So for open data sets, the public data sets, you don't need to worry about GDPR as much, right? But if you consider the private one with the PIIs, so we have something called compute to data, which is one of the services that the data provider can select. What it does is it basically allows the data provider to monetize their data sets without even the consumer seeing the data set. Yeah. So do you have a question about computer data later on, or should I continue on this one?
Rank, if you want to shoot me a DM real quick, if that just answered your question.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to talk about computer data as well down this call further,
okay.
and then I will explain how it works.
Yeah, I think you answered his question. Just moving on from there back to data tokens. What variations are available of the data token?
Okay, as in variations, you mean like features around it?
Yeah,
right.
like time-bound access, compute to date.
Yeah. So currently, so let's say you are selling data sets, right? And it's in the form of a stream. And of course, data streams or data sets, you want to have a limited access. You don't want someone to buy your data sets for, let's say, 100 ocean tokens, or let's say $50, and give a lifetime access. Yeah, because you are generating more and more data every now and then, and 10 years down the line, your data set will become a very, very valuable entity, or very, very, very valuable asset worth, let's say, $50,000. So what you can do is you can give a time-bound access to that data set, right? So you can say, okay, I want to price the data set as 10 ocean tokens, yeah, but only allow 1 week of access or 1 day of access. So what will happen is when the consumer purchase the data sets by redeeming the data token, they can only consume the data sets for 1 week if the time-bound access is for 1 week. Yeah, and after that, they will have to buy that data set again, assuming the data set has been added, data set has improved in value by more data points being added, for example. The another one is, yeah, sorry, go on.
No, you're good. So basically, it could be used as a source of passive income if more data points are being added on a regular basis.
Yes, this is
that?
Exactly. So this is also where the speculation parts come in, right? So let's imagine that, let's say Daimler, yeah, the producer of Mercedes, they published a data set on Ocean Market, saying that this is the data about 10 cars, let's say, or 1,000 cars, yeah, or let's say a series C Mercedes Benz. Yes, and tomorrow they go and add another series E class data sets, right? So now the data set has increased in value because now it contains the data set from the two models instead of one, right? So the speculation comes in here where I, as an investor, I, as a data taker, see, okay, they have just started out and they are going to add more and more data sets. So tomorrow, 1 year down the line, this data set will be more valuable because it's continuously, increasing in size and maybe quality. Yeah. So it's just like you are investing in another crypto project or in a stock, right? You are assuming, or you are speculating that tomorrow the price or the value proposition offered by that particular company will increase because they are just starting out right now, but after a year they will have more adoption, for example. Yeah, same with the data set. So this is how you also speculate.
Oh, okay, I see. What other variations do you envision in the future other than compute to date and time bound access?
So in future also, we are actually, if you have read the blog post about, we are also introducing NFTs as an IP management layer on Ocean Protocol. Yeah, so the data provider will basically be able to also give exclusive right to sell the data set using NFT. So if I'm a data provider, for example, if I'm a data owner, I can give a license as an NFT to other parties also to sell that data set for a particular period of time. Yeah. So this will also be combined with data tokens because data tokens are fungible tokens. So if you want to have like multiple licenses, that can also be arranged under one NFT. Yeah. So let's say if a license is 1 year with 5% royalty, yeah, and you want to give 10 such licenses, then you would have one NFT and 10 data tokens for that particular NFT. Yeah. So you could like spread out 10 copies to other people. Same way for other type of arrangements. So that's coming as well. And other than that, we are also like right now working towards adoption, getting more adoption for the data token itself. As and when data token is getting mature, we are trying to reach out and to talk to or collaborate with other DeFi protocols to introduce data tokens into these DeFi protocols, so that people can actually take a loan against their data. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Almost like instances.
Yeah, you actually kind of touched on it, but that was going to be my question. Is like, how do you envision data tokens playing into like DeFi? Because it seems like in a lot of these cases they'll have inherent value backing it to where you could maybe even collateralize potentially down the line. I'd just be curious to hear your take.
So I mean, so on a macro level, I'm imagining data assets in a corporate balance sheet, right? So what Ocean is also good at is discovering the price of a data set, right? So imagine if you are a big corporation and earlier you generated a lot of data sets. Let's take example of Daimler itself again. Yeah, Mercedes. So they have a ton of data set, or Tesla, they have a ton of data sets, right? But because there was no proper liquid mechanisms earlier where actually they can have a proper or appropriate worth of the data set or the price of the data set, they were not able to show that as a tangible asset, right? I mean, it's an intangible asset. It's a byproduct right now. But if someone could actually sell this data set in the open market tomorrow, this becomes a tangible asset, a liquid asset. Yeah. And once an asset is liquid, you could actually show that in your balance sheet. Yeah. So data sets, I envision the data sets being added to a corporate balance sheet in the future. So that would be super cool as well. And then, as you mentioned, like you could be able to take a loan against your data or your data sets because now the data sets have value. Now the data sets has price. So you can
Yeah.
put that as a collateral as well.
That's actually a great segue into the next question I had. So you mentioned obviously people owning their data now. So can you explain what data wallets are and how that plays on data custody and data management?
So uh, what we try to do at Ocean is we leverage the existing technology instead of and try to not create new ones if not needed, right? Now the power of data token is such that since it's an ERC20, it can be added to MetaMask, yeah, or any wallet that supports ERC20 tokens. So now the MetaMask actually becomes the data wallet because it actually has a list of your data sets or the list of data tokens that actually you own or you basically invested in, for example. So this is your data wallet particularly. Then the multi-sig wallets like by Gnosis, for example, can become a data custody wallet, right? Because now for a particular if someone is invested in a big data set at a high net worth, right? Let's say 1 million Ocean token worth in data set because they are very super optimistic on that. They would want to put it in like a proper multi-sig infrastructure, right? And they can just use Gnosis multi-sig out of the box, have like 2 or 3 signees or signatures there, and then just add the data token there. Simple, and it becomes a data custody wallet. And same way, you can leverage the existing DeFi tools and make it the data tools. That's the power the ERC20 data token gives you.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So selling your data rather than Facebook selling your data and profiting.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on an interesting point because I was thinking about it as you guys were still talking about it. It almost kind of creates a game theory in a sense for companies. Like I could see like an insurance company, right? Like insurance have a ton of data around drivers and driver behavior, right? Let's just say like car insurance or even, life insurance, health insurance. It almost creates like a game theory type situation where the companies that are not monetizing their data in these marketplaces will fall behind to their competitors.
It will create a FOMO effect. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's always a tipping point, right? So there's a very fine book, Tipping Point. I'm sure a lot of people must have read that. So there is one point where the tipping point comes, where people start feeling FOMO. I think in Bitcoin it was around like 2013, and then early 2016, and then late 2000 last year when the DeFi summer, and Bitcoin in the last March, right? So this are kind of events when people start FOMOing out, and then the asset gets appreciated, we call it like a moonshot, right? And yeah, this will happen, but it takes time to reach there, to this mass adoption. And yeah, I see that it will happen uh, in the near future.
Yeah, because it it's weird in the sense of um, individual companies benefit by sharing their data, to where they can monetize it, and then by monetizing it, it removes all these kind of walled gardens or siloed databases, to where it puts all that data in one place, to where really like the ultimate value can be generated or created, right?
Hmm.
Or like you're
Yeah.
talking about the AI, like it just creates this like massive buffet of data, if you will,
Yeah.
to where it makes it just a win-win for everyone around, to where it's like the ultimate value can be created by these um, through AI, and then also you have all these individual businesses that are monetarily benefiting by bringing something to the table.
And not only AI, so there is another angle where Ocean also fits super well is, for example, smart city use case. Yeah. So we have done our one of our researches where we were actually doing deep dive on the smart city infrastructure. We found out that these cities of today have this unique problem, that they want to be transparent to their citizens, and they want to leverage the data, for the benefit of the community or their city, right? Like weather data, for example, or let's say traffic data about the air pollution within the city. But they are worried about the data being compromised, or like PII leaks, for example. Yeah. And what we found out, that Ocean is also very effective against with these use cases, because our computer data allows this machine learning algorithms for the let's say semi corporations within the same city to be trained on this public data, where these cities can actually share the data with them without actually being citizen data being compromised, because the algorithm never sees the data. Yeah, they can only train the data in a very secure environment that is cut off from the internet, and then the trained model is sent back to the algorithm owner. Yeah, so they get the benefit of training on the private data, but they can't also see the data.
Yeah, that's interesting. So kind of going from there, we have a lot of Link Marines in our community. How do data tokens play into your relationship with Chainlink?
So just a bit background with Chainlink. So we are very good friends with Chainlink, and has been since like around 2017. Uh, and we had conversation with Chainlink team about having bi-directional data feeds. So these feeds are basically the data token prices. So since data token is an ERC20 token, and if data tokens are listed in Uniswap, Balancer, for example, or other DAXs, then Chainlink can be easily averaged to generate an aggregated price feed for each data token, right? And what's cool is this price feeds can actually then be sold as a data token in Ocean market. Yeah, so it's kind of a bi-directional that helps Chainlink and Ocean team and Ocean community as well. Right now, the talks actually are still like on like going on the background, but we are still waiting on the data tokens getting a bit more mature and find better adoption, right? So Chainlink comes into picture when the token prices, or let's say token are being available on multiple DEXs, right? We are right now perfecting the process with our upcoming releases to ensure that we minimize the rug pulls around this, and we ensure that the rights of the data owners and data providers are well maintained, along with the staking protection for the stakers as well. So, but this will come in the future.
That's awesome. So, switching gears here a little bit to focus specifically on the marketplace. I know you had touched on this earlier, but I know using the ocean market, you can publish data, you can stake on data or like curate it, and you also can buy data. Just at like a high level summary, can you just kind of like walk through each of these areas and the role they play within the ecosystem?
Sure. So currently, we see there are three major actors in the ocean ecosystem. Number one is the data provider, who actually publishes the data on the ocean market in the hope of monetizing it. The second one is the data stakers. So these people are ocean community, or whoever is holding the ocean. So they are also speculating on the data, and they are also like signaling by staking on the data set. So if how this works is basically, if I'm a speculator or if I'm a data staker, I would like do my research and find the best data sets that I want to stake on. Yeah, it means I want to invest in those. And in return, I basically earn the swap fees whenever there is a swap between data token and ocean, because I become a part of that pool. Yeah, what this does, it also provides a very useful signal to other stakers, subsequent stakers, who take a look at which pool has best staking, like how many people are staked in that pool, how decentralized is that pool, for example, right? And this also gives a very powerful signal to the consumers, which are the third actors. So data consumers are the ones that wants the access to the data sets or the compute on the data sets. And what they do is they go to this data pool, purchase a data token, and then redeem that data token for the data set or the compute for the data set.
Gotcha. And is there a, say, Base Space LLC has some data that we want to publish?
Mm-hmm.
What does that process look like? Is there a minimum uh, amount of ocean that we need to lock up to publish data sets?
Yeah, so there are two ways to do that. Number one, so let's say you already know what price you want to sell the data for. You want to keep it fixed. You don't want to play with the market forces. Yeah, so you can go and opt for the fixed price exchange, and it works like just like Amazon.com. You go there, you list the data set, like with the metadata, what the data set is about, how much data points it has, what format the file is in. For example, give the data URLs, the static URL. By the way, this static URL is encrypted, and and after encryption, it is stored on chain, so no one ever knows where the data is actually. And by the way, Ocean also doesn't keep any record of that ourselves, so we don't log it. So we try to maintain the full privacy of the data set ourselves as well. And then basically you select the price, and there you go. You just click on the publish button, confirm couple of transaction on MetaMask, and your data set is listed. And this is a fixed price. Now the second option is you don't know what the price of the data set should be, right? And you want the market to decide that. And also you want the community to come in and stake on the data sets. And by the way, if they stake on the data set, they also become kind of an affiliate to your data set, right? So they will go out and market your data sets because they are now an investor in your data set, and they want to, shield, basically that's the term that we use in crypto, shield your data sets. Yeah. In that case, you would need an initial liquidity of some ocean token to be pulled in the balance. So by the way, we use balancer pools. So you want some, let's say, 1,000 ocean tokens. By the way, this actually varies based on what the initial price you want to keep and how much total data tokens you want to mint. Based on this calculations, you are given the number of ocean token that is required to be added in the pool. And once you have added this data token, the price is set to the initial price that you decide. Yeah, and from there on, people can start staking, and yeah, then the market decides the price of the data set.
That's really you hit on balancer, and I want to circle back to that here in a moment because I found that like extremely interesting. But in addition to that, the data is published as an interoperable ERC20 data set token, right? So
And that's
uh,
data tokens, yes.
in the future it will be able to be cross chain. Is that right?
Yes. So since it's ERC20 and there are lots and lots of bridges now, that's being operated, right? Between like Polygon, Binance, Altus. So of course, these data tokens will be in future. You will be able to migrate these data tokens purchased from one chain to another chain. I think that's coming in V4.
Yeah. So kind of like going off that, having a cross chain data token, what are the implications of having that automatic price discovery of data in of itself?
So the first word that comes to mind is data arbitrage. Yeah. So imagine if you, for the same data tokens, you have two different pools, probably in the same chain or a different chain, right? So let's say the same data token exists in two chains, one in balancer pools in Ethereum, Ethereum mainnet, and other on the QuickSwap DEX on Polygon. Yeah. What will happen is whenever someone is purchasing the data set, they will see which of this chain provides cheaper pricing for that particular data token, because data token provides the access to the data set, right? So if something is cheaper somewhere, you would go and buy that because you get the same access to that data set, right? And what we'll see is the rise of the data arbitrage bots. So in the early days of DeFi, when there was only Uniswap and Compound, you did not see this dynamics playing out because there was no more options. But now, if you see, when there were Aave, Compound, and other lending platforms, and then Uniswap, SushiSwap, you saw that Yearn came up with this strategy. The strategy protocol, Yearn Finance, and there are like arbitrage bots which are very actively trading the data sets, right, and balancing the prices. So uh, we will see the same for the data sets, and yeah, that will happen once we go multi-chain, or once data tokens finds different house or a different exchange.
Yeah. So kind of going from there, I know we had touched a little bit on initial data offerings in that hypothetical situation. Um, are there any legality concerns around IDOs for just like an average user across particular jurisdictions? Like I know we talked about like the GDPR and just like data laws in general.
So, I mean, there are always legals around the data, right? But these legals are limited to the data provider, kind of, right? Because data provider is the one who is tokenizing the data and bringing into the blockchain. And of course, when things go into the blockchain, it's decentralized. So people don't have control over that, right? So it is the responsibility of the data provider to make sure that whatever the data sets they are publishing on Ocean, they have acquired proper rights to the data set. Yeah. To actually protect the piracy of the dataset, we also have a DMCA policy, which is clearly defined in our GitHub repo, and we also maintain a purgatory list that basically blacklist, or let's say put the data sets that are in violation to our policies into that list, and we basically remove them from our marketplace.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and kind of circling back to Balancer in of itself, could you dive in on a deeper level of the importance of having Balancer in these like AMM models with data and the price discovery?
So AMMs are a very good tool for price discovery. At least they were a very good tool at the time when data tokens were launched. Yeah. The cool thing about Balancer and the let's say the the upper hand it has over other DAXs is it allows a single asset listing, right? So what it means is this basically turned out to be our single asset staking model that we use right now as an ocean token, right? So what happens is since you are the publisher of the data token, and when you launch the data token or when you publish a data set, you will mint some data tokens, right? And provide an initial liquidity. But at this point, none of the stakers have the data tokens with them, right? So they cannot invest in your data set, or they cannot stake in the data set if you are using Uniswap, for example, because it only allows two-sided staking. Yeah. So we use Balancer because it allowed the stakers to stake only using Ocean token as a single asset, and Balancer internally basically sells some of the Ocean into data tokens and balance the pool. Yeah. So people, what the stakers used to do, they put in their Ocean tokens and got some BPTs, which is Balancer pool tokens, as their claim to the stake. Yeah, and this also helps with the price discovery because more and more people stake on the pool on Balancer, higher the demand of the data token is, and the price of the data set increases. Yeah, so this shows the confidence of stakers in a particular data set. Yeah, when the confidence is low, it means people start selling the data tokens. It means the supply of the data tokens will increase, and people are taking Ocean back from the pool. Yeah, it means the confidence, the investor confidence in a particular data set has gone very low. So this also like plays very well with the market dynamics.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's this is extremely fascinating. And so for the people that are listening or maybe watching at another point in time, how can people access this data marketplace?
We have a marketplace in production at market.oceanprotocol.com. So if you go there, it's very easy, and we have like one of the best team who is designing the marketplace, and it's made very simple for even the people who are very new to crypto. Yeah, and we are trying actually every release we try to optimize that and improve our onboarding process. Also, I mean, before, since we are in this point, people who are new to Ocean and who are new to blockchain itself and want to know about blockchain and crypto, and then what Ocean plays a role here, you can go to oceanacademy.io, which is our community maintained academy. So it has a list of resources and very smooth onboarding for the crypto noobs into the crypto, and then Ocean on there. And then you can come and access the data marketplace and you can play around with that.
I really love that you guys provide those type of resources on your website for new folks getting into the space, because we have so many new people joining in. So that's really awesome. Kind of circling back around to the compute to date, and transitioning from marketplaces. Could you now like dive back into like what is compute to date, and the main problems that it does solve?
Yep. So compute to data basically solves the privacy issue of the data set, right? So there are two ways you can sell the data set. Number one is to allow people to download the data set, right? But if your data has the PII, like private information about your credit card details, your family, your family history, your family details, and everything, you would probably not go that route, right? Because it's insecure for you. In that case, what we did was we launched compute to data, which is the second way, where when you publish a data set, you get to select that I want to allow only compute access on the data set and not the downloadable access. And when you do that, what happens is when the consumer who likes the data that you have, that you want to sell, they see that, okay, it's a compute access. It means that it's only open for algorithms. It's not open for human eyes. Yeah. So the consumer has to publish an algorithm on Ocean protocol and then send a request to the provider of the data saying, hey, this is my algorithm. I'm very interested in your data set. and I want to consume your data set with this algorithm. Yeah, of course, I mean, this conversion doesn't happen like I'm explaining, but it's more like, a couple of clicks that you do to signify this. And then the data provider gets this notification or sees that, okay, someone is interested in the data set, and then they check the algorithm to make sure that it's not malicious, it doesn't have viruses, or it doesn't have some leaks or some log entries, right? So once the data provider checks the algorithm and sees, okay, everything is fine, then they whitelist or they put the algorithm in the allow list. Once it happens, the consumer can initiate the computer data. Now, when they click on the computer data initiation, what happens is Ocean infrastructure basically creates a very, let's say, trusted environment where we use a containerized model where the data is fetched from the data provider's location, added in the model, added in that containerized environment. The algorithm is fetched from the consumer, and then the data is trained on their algorithm. Yeah, and then the trained data and the logs is sent back to the consumer after the training is done, and all the residue like the data set and everything else is destroyed, and the entire container is destroyed just to make sure that there is no leak of the data set. And what the consumer gets is only the trained algorithm and the logs for that algorithm to make sure that, okay, the training actually happened. Yeah, they never get to see the actual data set about your credit card history or anything else. And that's how we kept your PII secure. Yeah, and one of the advantages of this model is, imagine if your data set is falls within GDPR, you could run a containerized environment or computed data model within the GDPR region, and since the data never goes to the consumer, it is only brought to the it is only brought to the computed data. You are not even breaking any GDPR laws. You are being compliant to GDPR. Yeah, so that's super cool for the industries and big corporations that want to take advantage of this technology.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. I mean, this is definitely going to revolutionize how businesses are able to use data, specifically private data. And with that, can you kind of touch on like why private data is so valuable, and where you see private data going in the future?
Mhm. So let's take example of Facebook. Why is Facebook a $1 trillion company? Why is Google the $1 trillion company? Because they have your private data. Because they know what website you are going through. They know your friends. They know your habits, for example. And what they do is they sell this information to the advertiser who is willing to pay highest bids to get access to your profiles. Yeah. Now, if this data was not available to them, they would probably not worth $1 trillion company. They would be even like some cool startups or some cool companies, but not the price they have right now, not the USP that they have right now, right? So the private data is actually valuable because that private data unlocks a lot of use cases, advertising being only one of them. Yeah, it's also unlocks, let's say, another example. Let's take example of COVID. Yeah, uh, last year there was a very bad situation globally where there was no vaccine, people were dying, a lot of scientists were struggling with the data because they did not have availability of global data store of different COVID patients. Yeah, because the nations didn't share this data because there was no secure way of sharing this data with each other, right? Because they didn't, of course, they don't trust each other in a way to compromise their citizens' privacy. Yeah, but if they would have used something like computer data, right? Of course, they would audit and all these things. But if computer data would have been used there, they could have solved this problem of sharing the data mutually without compromising the privacy of the data sets, right? So let's say China would send their algorithm to train on the data that is being provided by Germany. Yeah, and this way they could learn faster and could develop the vaccines faster and could have saved a lot of lives. Yeah, so these are some of the use cases that private data enables, and private data is really, really very valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And you've kind of touched on before, how the control of access of this private data. We kind of already covered like marketplaces, data owners, end users. I'm curious if you could go into maybe the control of access from like trusted algorithms and provenance.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So like when basically for private data, right, controlling the access to that data, you can control it through like through the data owners or through like the end users. Can you also talk about like controlling that access through different algorithms?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, right? So computed with the combination of data tokens and computed data, it is possible to share the data with AI, or let's say even like let's take one example of the robots, right? Robots, or let's say IoT devices. So it doesn't need to be a human being in middle, right? So IoT devices can also like exchange this information with each other via data tokens, right? Data token is basically an access token, and IoT devices can like buy and sell the data sets among their own market. For example, IoT is based on IoT devices, so data tokens can be used and leveraged over there, and the different devices can talk to each other, sell and purchase and sell the data sets over there. Also maintain the access control within their own organization, because data token doesn't need to be priced. So if you were, let's say, if you are a big corporation and you have like multiple departments in different regions, right? So let's say Tesla has this German entity, Tesla has this US entity, and because of the GDPR compliance and all these things, it is difficult for them to share the data within each other, within different geographies. They could use Ocean and leverage computer data to share information. And of course, as I said, you can put price is zero and publish the data set, and it's freely available. So if it's within the same organization, you can also like use it like an access control mechanism to give and revoke the access to a particular data set.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Hey, so I had a question from one of our listeners. Crypto Nubro asks, from a biotech company, how would they integrate with Ocean? Like, how would they go about integrating their data?
So, so when we designed Ocean, we made sure that we go with the primitives. So we are very general purpose data access control layer. What we need, the only thing that we need is two things. Number one, the metadata, that what the data is about, the context, and the location of the data, where the data actually is. So it can be a URI or a URL. URI as in it's if the data is in S3, Amazon S3 buckets, or if the data is in like a private server somewhere, then the access to that server. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're a biotech company, if you are an insurance company, right? Everyone uses a same topography to store data somewhere, right? It can be in Amazon, it can be on your private server, it can be on Google Drive, it can be also in Filecoin, for example. Yeah. If you have access to that URI, if you know where the data is located, you can publish the data sets on Ocean protocol. So it would be the same process for biotech company as well to list data sets on Ocean. What they could do though is they could create a specialized marketplace where they use the same same vertical know-how, or the same knowledge within the same geography, and they could cater, their marketplace could cater for only biotech companies to buy and sell data sets. So they could have that, but that's again not the core technology itself, but that's just the marketplace part, which is kind of a dApp on Ocean. But the core technology is same for almost all the data sets. So it's like kind of a industry agnostic.
Perfect. I think you answered the question. Chase, I know you were about to transition. Did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah. Before I do, Musu, did you hit on all your questions that you're wanting to ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So shifting gears, moving from the present and the past of what Ocean has done and looking towards like the future. What developments are you guys most excited for the rest of this year?
So we have a very ambitious roadmap this year. V4 is coming, and V4 is a big bunch of lot of features, including safe staking, safe staking, and also a lot of easy to use tools for the users. Then the NFTs are coming to Ocean, and also long awaited data farming is coming to Ocean this year. And I must be missing a lot more features, but actually it's very clearly mentioned on the roadmap. But these are the most exciting things I'm looking forward to.
Did you say data farming?
Yes, data farming. So it was announced last year. I think Trent wrote a blog post, and we have been waiting to launch it. I mean, it was always in our roadmap, and we were waiting for like a little bit safer staking for the data farming to go on steroids. But yeah, it's coming. So V4 is coming, and data farming is coming too. And we are envisioning it to be a multi-year program. So it's going to be very big.
That is extremely interesting. Because the narrative right now is yield farming or has been over the last year. So it's kind of like for everyone listening right now, you're getting a sneak peek of what the new narrative may be, and data farming may be it. So it's really interesting. So I think one thing that a lot of us here, like I said, we're all Link Marines. I think one of the things that we really love about Chainlink is the reduction in friction for value to be created, right? It's like truth as a service where you can partner with other people and create value. And I see a ton of parallels with Ocean, with data, right? Like having this open data marketplace where really wherever your imagination leads, you have access to that data and you can create value. So I'm just curious, like in your eyes, like where do you see Ocean going in the next 5 years, or where I guess I should say taking this industry in the next 5 years?
So as a macro DeFi narrative, I see data being front and center into the DeFi and NFT space, playing a big role there, right? So people realizing that data, it's time to bring data to the front row. So that will happen. What other things will happen is we will see a massive improvements in user experience, not only across Ocean, but also like towards the whole crypto space, right? So as I mentioned, right, Ocean actually has the capabilities that it leverages on the current the current tools that the DeFi and crypto has to offer. So let's say imagine if MetaMask improves their user experience 10x in next 5 years, and of course it will happen. The same MetaMask can be leveraged for Ocean as well, right? So Ocean directly get the advantage of all these improvements. Yeah, so I'm imagining the barrier to entry for the data scientists, the big corporations becomes much easier, and Ocean becomes kind of like ready to use with very few know-how. Then I also see, as I mentioned earlier, data sets in corporate balance sheets, right? So corporations adopting this technology and realizing that they can actually improve their asset or improve their balance sheet using Ocean protocol. So I'm also looking forward to that. Then one-click microloans with your personal data as collateral. So that would be super cool. Like this would really be awesome for the retail industry, where you can just there is an app which is collecting your data, and then there is a swipe button which allows you to just enable it as a collateral, and then you are just sitting and basically earning money, or or farming with your data set, for example. Then universal data income. So there is this concept of universal basic income, which means that everyone is getting paid a certain minimum income, either you are contributing or not. And that has been this concept has been talked about a lot, and it's not really practical for a massive global economy. But universal data income could be, because everyone generates data, and as I mentioned, the private data is valuable. Yeah, and there is also a growing demand for the data unions. So imagine like people joining individual data sets are not worth that much, but if there are like 10,000 users contributing to the same data set, right? And then the data set is worth something. And the monetary benefits that the data set gets when it is sold is passed down to the users who is contributing to that. So I call this kind of a universal data income. And that is also very, coming in few years. So these are the like a macro place that I see playing around in the data, and I see ocean as a centerpiece to that.
That's awesome, and that's incredibly base. I like your outlook on the future, and I think I can envision the kind of same landscape shaping that way. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And do we have time if to bring on some guests if they have questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, you can request now, and I'll let you guys on one at a time.
Yeah,
We got coming on.
probably I like leaked too much alpha. No one has any more questions now.
No, we got two people.
There could never be too much alpha leaked on base space. That's what we're here for.
What's going on, Kodak?
Oh, hey, how's it going? Thanks, Manan, for a great presentation and explaining Ocean Protocol very well. I may have missed it. I was kind of on my commute to work, so I kind of cut in and out. So there's, like, listening to you, I kind of thought of two kind of emerging technologies within the space and how it would fit into kind of Ocean Protocol and the data market you have. The two technologies are, the first is decentralized identities, and whereby I may have a decentralized identity and I can control what parts of my identity, like my birthday, my social security number, health records, and things like that, that I can share. And then the other technology that I thought that I would like to hear more about your thoughts on is zero knowledge proofs, where people can query data by simply asking, is so and so person over 18, and they will get a yes or no answer from the data without actually revealing specific details from the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's my questions.
Cool. Yeah, and thanks for the question. So, talking about the first one, so the DID, actually, when we designed Ocean, DID was the central part of it, like, decentralized identifier. And we internally still use that for the data sets. So each of the data set, if you take a look at our Aquarius, which is our metadata store, a global metadata store, each data set has a unique DID. Right now, we are using the address, the wallet address, or the dataset address, which is an Ethereum address, as the DID. But of course, now we are going multi-chain, and all the different chain functions differently and have their own kind of identity system. Yeah. So one of the ways that we can or we will go forward is either incorporating these different DIDs onto the dataset, or instead of focusing on that, we onboard the partners that actually are specializing in that particular DID, or let's say unique identities, right? And we are actually already working towards that. If you see, we have like Everest onboarded on Ocean. They are actively working towards providing such an identity solution to Ocean. Then we have Utrust as well partnered right now. So they are also providing the decentralized trust mechanisms that can actually, not directly but indirectly be linked to a particular DID. And there will be many more that's going to come in the future. So yes, I understand that DID, and I recognize that DID is a very important crypto primitive that has to play well in the Ocean ecosystem. Talking about finer controls that you mentioned about, like, your birth date, your let's say a particular section in your profile, access control on that. Ocean Ocean doesn't provide that final controls yet on a particular entity, But we envision, and we are actually in talks with certain projects that actually are working using leveraging Ocean Protocol and working towards that, right? So they are like providing access control at a final level on this particular on a given particular data set. But access control in Ocean are also coming with V4, not at the final level that much, but on a particular data set. The second question you had was about. Sorry, can you repeat the second question?
Yeah, it was about. I guess you touched on it with finer controls. It was more about like zero knowledge proofs, where
Yes. So
people can query data
yes.
without revealing
So
data.
if you ask my opinion, I think zero knowledge proofs will start, or let's say get adoption first in the DeFi space, and I think it's already happening with ZK rollups being kind of used at an alpha level right now. Also, in the data space, I think there is a new protocol, Panther protocol. They're also working on ZK snarks for identifying the data and giving answers to the data as well. The same way that you mentioned, right? Asking for a birth date, then you can with ZK proofs you can predict that okay, the answer is yes or no. So that is also happening, but as in my opinion, that will be first DeFi, and then it will come to subsequent protocols. Because I mean, the first innovation always comes where the money is, right? Or a lot of capital is flowing, and that's the DeFi space right now.
Great, thank you so much, Manan. It's a real pleasure to hear that you guys are blockchain agnostic, especially in this room, which we tend to like blockchain agnostic projects.
so many maximalists, huh? I see.
Thanks for coming on, Ganak. We appreciate you. Oh, see. Oh, Data Whale dropped off. Let's try and get you back in here, brother.
Hey, Manan. As we're waiting for the next speaker to hop on, I'm just curious, what year do you think we will start to see data listed as an asset on balance sheets for a company? Just curious if you have like a very specific timeline or year that you think that could see that become a reality.
That's a very, very difficult question. And believe me, if I knew the answer to the question accurately, I would become a billionaire, right? Because that's something that leads to adoption of a particular technology, right? And there is a tipping point. You can take example of Polygon. They have been building for 3 years. Didn't see much of adoption, but in the last 3 months, they have reached like top 10 into the coin, in the crypto charts. So yeah, I mean, when it happens within a short time frame, like even like within weeks or months. Yeah. So, but realistically speaking, I think in the next 5 years we will actually get some really good signals around it, like when it's happening. So I would say give or take 3 to 5 years.
What's going on, Data Whale?
All right. Hey, everyone. Here's Moritz from Data Whale.
Hey, Moritz.
We're actually... Hi, Mana. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you. Great talk. Thanks a lot. So yeah, we're launching data tokens on Ocean Protocol. We also have our own app. So for everyone who's interested, please head on to datawhale.online. My question, Manan, for you, what's your thoughts on the go-to-market strategy for data tokens in particular? Because we're always speaking about publishers. What about the go-to-market strategy for data consumers?
So what I have learned in my experience as a consultant, so I also have a background, I didn't mention earlier, I have a background giving consultation services to Fortune 100 companies like Vodafone, Cisco, but I think I mentioned, right? I guess so. Yeah. So what I have experienced is always, so no one wants to be the first. Yeah. There's always people who says, okay, yeah, you have this cool technology, you have this, amazing product, but who is using it? Can you give me the names? Yeah. Everyone wants always to be the second. They don't want to be the first person. Yeah. But fortunately, in Ocean's case, we have some corporations that are actively working as we speak on their own data marketplaces. Yeah, I guess if you are in touch with Ocean, like if you are like in sync with Ocean's development, then you would know which I'm talking about. And these were the early adopters. These are going to be the early adopters. And once they launch their markets, once they launch their tech on Ocean, it will be much easier for not only Ocean but also the projects like uh, Alga and others who's building on Ocean to take them as a reference and go to different partners and say, look, this is how people are using it, and this is how you could do it too, and then create the FOMO effect, basically, right? Once the FOMO starts, people automatically just you don't have to knock the doors anymore.
So I have a question for you, man.
Mhm.
So you have Reef Protocol, right? What would you say the main differences are between Ocean and Reef?
Can you give me a brief? Let me check.
Okay, so Ocean is using data sets, right? Your guys' main, I guess your main utility is the utilization
Correct.
of these data sets, right? And
Correct.
obviously, data to me is like the new gold. Has been for a while, but now it's becoming more evident, right? Even outside of blockchain or cryptocurrency space. Your ability to aggregate that data, right, is probably more useful as a concept when you're consulting with any company, whether it be even Vodafone or Cisco or whichever company. Does Ocean's protocol offer that ability for the utilization of the data, or is it just a way to create a blockchain utilizing that data?
No, so let me go back a bit. So what Ocean specializes is creating an exchange. So it's kind of if you can see it as an handshake protocol. Yeah. So the data providers is searching. Sorry, data providers wants to monetize their data. So what they do is they list their data asset onto Ocean protocol, and Ocean, by the way, doesn't handle the data sets at all. Even Ocean protocol doesn't, uh, you know, uh, know where the data set is, apart from initial encryption. So we only know when the data is decrypted and sent back to the data consumer. And if you are running your own provider component, Ocean doesn't know anything, right? So and that's by design because we don't want to be the central authority. We are actually trying to solve that. Yeah. So
So
what we do
you're just
is
the exchange between the two parties, right? From the
yes, and
encryption.
not only that. So that's one part, right? The other part is the compute to data, as I mentioned, like privacy preserving compute, right? To allow people to securely sell the private data as well. Then the third part is if you are aware, I can give you an example in DeFi. If you are aware with REN protocol, what they do is they are bringing Bitcoin, which is not on Ethereum chain, securely onto the Ethereum as REN BTC, right? So they are an on-ramp of non-Ethereum projects into Ethereum ecosystem. So they have REN FIL for Filecoin because Filecoin is a separate blockchain. Bitcoin is a separate blockchain, but they are onboarding this BTC and FIL into Ethereum to play with the DeFi. Yeah, that's exactly what we do with data. So data does not exist on blockchain. It's existing on S3 bucket or your laptop or your mobile phone. What we do is we tokenize that and tokenize the access and bring that on blockchain to be played well with the DeFi because DeFi is made up of Legos. And by that, Ocean is able to provide really good tools within DeFi to the users and users to play with.
Thank
Did
you.
I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. One more question.
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to your integrations between different ecosystems, does Ocean in itself operate by itself and integrates with these ecosystems, or are you part of an ecosystem?
So we actually had our own chain when we launched. Yeah, so it was based on POA, proof of authority.
Yeah.
But then we realized that we don't want to actually, our value proposition is not a blockchain. Our value proposition is the access control on the data and making the data transfer and exchange very easy. So what we did was we ditched this chain and we launched on Ethereum with a bunch of smart contracts, right? So we are a protocol. So we launched as an L2 on Ethereum, and then we gave tools to the developers on Ethereum. By that, we also leveraged a lot of Ethereum developers to build on our ecosystem. So it was a mutual beneficial for Ethereum ecosystem and Ocean ecosystem as well. And then the price of Ethereum rised, and when the price rises for the gas fees, people are not buying and trading the data sets so easily, because data is not the primitive DeFi asset, at least not yet. It will be in the future, but not yet, right? So we started looking out to different chains that provided and that solved this problem. And then we launched on Polygon. Since Polygon is based on EVM, we just needed Ethereum to Polygon bridge to move the assets between, and took the Ocean smart contracts and directly deployed on Polygon. It worked out of the box. Yeah. Same thing with the Binance Smart Chain. So having said that, what I mean is we are network agnostic. We don't have to, we don't want to be only in a particular network. If tomorrow we see that, okay, Solana is really doing really good, and there is an ecosystem which can be benefited by leveraging Ocean tech, right? And there are people who wants to use Ocean, we could go there as well. It's not a problem for us.
Nice. And then have you guys thought about integration into Dot's ecosystem with their parachain?
Yes, we already have announced. So
Oh,
Dot,
okay.
so
I'm sorry.
Gavin, Gavin. So Gavin is also parity, where Gavin is operating parity, and he's based in Berlin, and we are very good friends with them. And
Yeah,
actually,
they're
we
good
also
people.
we also met them every now and then when times were good, pre-COVID, when there were a lot of meetups, crypto meetups, and once in a while, and they were building Polkadot. And it was that time we kind of said, okay, guys, you launch Polkadot and we'll be there. And we
Nice.
announced this year we'll be also on Polkadot via Moonbeam. So Moonbeam is taking the EVM-based smart contracts and deploying that on the substrate. So we have decided to go that route. So we are also already going to be on Polkadot. And in the near future, there are also a couple of new chains that we are looking to right now, talking with. So I think you'll also see some new news coming up. And
So
also
my,
very interesting to us is the Cosmos ecosystem as well.
I was about to just ask that. Never mind. You got it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
I think we just got one more for you, Manan. What's going on, Jim?
What's going on? What up, Manan?
Hey, Jim. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to hear you too. Good talk. Me and Data Whale Moritz, we were talking on the Sailors Lounge on on the recent episode, not uploaded yet, but on episode 11. But we were talking about I guess just the different use cases of like data tokens and also I guess like data market. You posted this tweet that I always bring up about like having like kind of like a Netflix or like a Netflix on like Netflix using
So
like
how
data
can
tokens.
someone build Netflix using
Yeah,
Ocean? Yeah.
exactly. Could you, I guess, like just go into that and then probably I want to like go into like just different use cases of data tokens, because I think what people probably don't realize is that data tokens will probably be like that next big thing of like how NFTs are, but I think there's a lot of use cases for data tokens.
Yep, sure. So let's take a step back. So let's talk about a video, right? So what is video? Video is basically an encoded version of data, right? So video, audio, PDF, CSV, all these are kind of a data. And wherever there is data set, Ocean is really fit to use that. Yeah. So now if we see the videos, if you see the Netflix, it is basically a stream of video. Yeah. So it's kind of a stream of data, and Ocean supports data streams, right? So how could one build Netflix is very simple. So what you need to do is just fork our provider component, right? And make sure that provider component add couple of functions to make it video aware, right? So encodings and decodings, this different codecs. So make it video aware, and then create a marketplace, which is like a Netflix front end. Create a marketplace which has this different video listed, maybe the price, if you have like a package of per video, per video view of 10 tokens, or a monthly subscription, you can do that with data token as well. Use the data token as a subscription, right? Post it on Ocean Market. Someone have access to the data token, they can like access that stream for 1 month, because we have time-based access as well. Yeah, so subscription for 1 month or 1 year, depending on that. And then it's much simpler, because now when you start streaming, the provider component just checks that, okay, this account which is linked to this Netflix, or let's say Ocean Netflix, does this account has a right to stream the video? And that is done by checking if the data token that this guy purchased has expired. If not, then the provider component will start streaming back the data, which is the video, right? So it's actually, it sounds a bit difficult, but it's much easier to create if someone want to create. And if you find someone who wants to do that, then yeah, I will be very happy to help them.
Thanks for the question, Jim. Appreciate you coming on, man. And and thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us. This has been hella based.
Very, very happy to be here, and thanks everyone for sticking around. I think we actually went past our time, which is, I think, a good thing. I hope so. It means that
Definitely.
people are still here. Then I think it was not that bad.
No,
All right.
it was an incredibly based episode. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thanks again. I personally learned a lot, and I did the research beforehand to help put this together, and I still found this episode incredibly valuable. So I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come in and drop some alpha on what the future is going to look like in the data economy. So thanks for coming on the Base Space.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and plus,
Yep.
Thank you.
So thanks for having me, and thanks for listening, guys.